I always wanted to be a journalist. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to, I think, like so many people who have a creative flair there, I wanted to write a book. That's what I wanted to be. Be like Stephen King, churn out 3 books a year, be rich, and all of that. And I have started at least 20 books, and I have got to chapter 2, never,
Really?
because I don't have the patience. And I think that's so I wanted to be a writer, so that led me into journalism. Then I had some oh, I think I may have told you a story when we was doing this. So I started out writing for college newspaper, doing entertainment pieces, really just to see how many swear words I could get into a column without them editing it out. So I'd always choose the really weird punk bands to review, the ones that had really twisted names, just to see if I could get it in print. Because that's how mature I was at the age of like 19, right? So then I went to work for a newspaper in England. I was actually at University of Florida at the time, getting a degree there, and I went and worked one summer for a newspaper in the UK. And when you're the junior guy, you cover all the junk, right? So I was covering the courts, and there was a guy there who had been arrested for what in England they call it drunk driving, a DUI here, and he was up before the judge. He was found guilty. He was given a fine. His license was suspended for however many months it was. Wasn't a big deal because this is 30 years ago, and I don't think that we really took that kind of offense as seriously then as we do now. Anyway, jump forward. We run it in the newspaper on the list of all the court stuff. He had not told his wife or family that he'd been arrested for drunk driving, and therefore it was my fault that they found out. So he decided to come to the newspaper office to explain to me why it was my fault with a machete. Now, fortunately, I was out on another assignment at the time. I was out writing doing a really great feature piece on another guy. But that's when I thought, you know what? Maybe journalism's not for me, and maybe I should look at going into public relations, advertising, marketing. It seems to have maybe a longer career life or just life in general, and so that's why I got out of it.
Yeah, attempted attack by machete will tend to
Yeah,
push you
yeah.
away from things.
When I tell that story, and the minute I say the word machete, people's eyes are like, "What?" It's yeah, and this was back in the this would be like 1990, 1989. So there's no security on the newspaper offices in those days, because who does that? I mean, it's not like now where you can't get in, but still. So, but to go back further, so yeah, the reason I got into all of that was I was very lucky as a child in that I got to through my father's work, got to live in a lot of different countries, got to move around a lot. I think I told you my brothers and I have 2 brothers. We all graduated high school in different countries. I ended up in just purely by chance the University of Florida in the mid '80s. Went back to the UK after that, and it's just that I think that early travel just kind of gave me that curiosity and interest, and I think that's what led me into originally being wanted to be a writer. And I think that's what then led me into more of the public relations and marketing, right? It's being able to, I don't know, it's finding new things. It's the curiosity to find out what's going on behind it, what makes it work, how to promote it, how to show other people the cool stuff you found, and so on. It's really that kind of excitement level. I mean, you see it in offices or in teams now. You can tell the people who are going to be good from just the way they ask questions and want to be involved in a situation. They're going to be the better folks. So there's a very long-winded way to how I began in this wonderful business, and why it works perfectly with the name of your podcast, because I would say I am very unreasonably optimistic.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. That's so good. And that really is what a fantastic story.
The receptionist at the newspaper office, I don't think she probably tells the story in quite the same way. So.
No, no. What? So you said you started 20 books, right? what type of books did you attempt to write?
All fiction. I am a voracious reader, even now. You know, I call my home office at my library. I'm constantly buying books, constantly reading books. I don't read any business books. I hate business books. I hate the 7 ways of doing this, the 5 people who do this, the 12 ways to. It's. I think the only one I've ever read and enjoyed were on more guerrilla marketing because it's all about. I think that's a lot of the disruption is what I like to do. But the rest of them, I think, can get a little formulaic. I'd say so. My jumping back, my master's degree is in communications with an emphasis in propaganda. So that's the kind of stuff I look at when we're putting pieces together, much more than business style books. Looking at how to stage something, looking at how to frame something, both good and bad, positive, but white and black propaganda. But that's the stuff I enjoy from a non-fictional point of view, reading about, or autobiographies of whether it's a musician or an actor or a famous person who's done something that I find interesting, having it from their perspective as opposed to someone trying to tell you, here's 9 ways you can improve your whatever.
I've found recently that biographies and autobiographies are a much more interesting way to learn the same types of business lessons, depending on who you're reading it from.
Well, and you have to bear in mind with an autobiography that the person's never going to put themselves in a particularly poor light. It's kind of like why the Elvis movie was better than the Elton John movie, because Elvis was dead and Elton John had creative control over his movie. So, which one's going to be more realistic?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. I think there are a few of them though, where a guy who's got an interesting, some interesting books is Dyson James. I think it's James Dyson, the vacuum cleaner. You know, he seems to tell you a long story, like all the ways he messed things up.
But that's great, because then you've got one of the challenges I think we have with the younger staff. This is going to make me sound like a grumpy old man shouting at clouds. One of the issues we have nowadays in modern business, especially with the younger staff, everyone's too scared to fail. It's not all going to work. And if you are going to be safe enough so that you never fail, well, then you're in the wrong business. That's when you should be selling insurance, because that's exactly that's what it's set for. This is ideas, right? And pushing the envelope, and what can you do that will give you that extra 5% over somebody else, and how do you do that? You've got to be innovative, and yeah, and to do that, you fail. I'm not going to tell you stories of my failures, but there have been many.
Yeah, well, unless unless it's like a hero's tale, right?
Well, actually, I will tell you one, and it's a really stupid mistake, and it's one I've never made again or let anybody else make again. It was my first PR job. I was writing a press release about an event that was happening in a hotel, and I called the hotel to double check the address, and they gave me the address. They gave me the wrong address. They gave me the entrance for the next door building because they were idiots, and I put that on a press release, and no one showed up at the event. And now I double, triple, quadruple check addresses on everything. It was 100% my fault. Nobody caught it, but now you got to check those things.
That one left a scar on you.
Yeah, yeah. Almost 30 years later, it still wakes me up in the middle of the night, because I had a boss at the time who was this amazing woman. But she would stamp her feet when things went bad, and it's hard enough trying not to laugh at her when she did that. Never mind when it's your own fault. It was a tough situation to be in.
So you've traveled all over the world, by the time you've even gotten to college, which is amazing. And then you go to the University of Florida, back to England. And we were talking about what the day that you woke up and you're like, I need a change. Tell me about that again.
Well, I'd been working back in London for a PR firm for God knows 5 or 6 years, maybe a bit longer. Same woman who stamps. Great job, loved it. Loved the travel. Loved the job. Ran into a couple of issues. One of them was I had a green card for the US because I'd got that from when I was here, and I was keeping it going by coming out once or twice a year. Well, I was stopped at the airport and informed that I had 2 weeks to move to the US or they were going to pull my green card. So that was step one. But then it had gotten to the stage for about a year before that in the UK. It was just, I just, funnily enough, I just told this story to someone at lunchtime today. I started getting the seasonal adjustment disorder. You know, I couldn't, I'd been in Florida for 5.5 years, been back in the UK for 7 or 8 years. And in the winters, I was just getting more and more depressed. I'd go to work in the dark. And there's probably people listening to this in New York or Boston going, yeah, I go to work in the dark and come home in the dark and the weather's always crap and I stand on a train platform. But it was that. And it would get to the stage, seriously, I would go to a tanning salon to feel warm. And it's like when you're going to a tanning salon to feel warm, just to get the ice out of your bones, it's time to move somewhere warm. So yeah, we were back in Florida. We moved here, and I've been here now 20 something years. And every time somebody reaches out to me to offer me a job in some cold place, I'm like, yeah. I can do it for travel, for work travel. Berlin for one of the big tourism shows, or London for your world travel market. But you're leaving after 5 days or 4 days, so it's much easier than knowing that you have to get up and do that every day. So sorry to all you folks in the north that we'll turn around and argue we have 4 seasons and therefore it's better. We have 4 seasons too. They're just different seasons, and most of them include either storms or heat.
That's right. And look, you can have your 4 seasons. Enjoy them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You can enjoy them.
Right.
Yep.
It's yeah, I guess it's one of those things. Also, you kind of get used to the situation you're in, and if you're going to be in tourism marketing, really, unless you're in a major city like a New York or Las Vegas, then really it does help to be in Florida or California. That is where the jobs are. That is where the attractions are. It is where the sunshine is. It's so if you want to get into that industry and have an opportunity to be there with budgets and do stuff, then it is kind of an ideal setting to be. And that's why millions of people come here every year. So it's a good place to be.
That's right. That's exactly right. So you're back here, and then what job did you have when you were in London? What were you doing in London before you left?
I was in public relations. Basically, it was a small agency, so there weren't really any titles. You were just everything, but it was mainly mixed agency. A lot of toys and games, a lot of jewelry, furniture. It really was kind of a little bit of everything. It was the first time I'd worked with celebrities, got to work with the likes of people like David Beckham back when nobody knew who he was, or very few people knew who he was. Got to do a lot of different things, and it was a really good opportunity because it was a smaller firm. You really had to do kind of everything. So there was events, there was writing, there was copywriting, there was, trying to bring in new business, going on all those new business pitches, which was, when you're 22 years old, and it's kind of like, okay, it's baptism by fire, but it's a great way to learn. So it's a good firm to be in. I really did enjoy my time there. I still kind of miss them because the woman who we worked for really was kind of a force of nature. She taught me a lot.
Those situations, and at the time, you don't even really, maybe you notice it or don't notice it depending on what's going on in your life, but when you're first thing in the morning till late at night, and your title might be Johnny Step and Fetch. Like they tell you to go do something, you got to go do it, and you got to go figure it out. There's nobody to hold your hand. And you look back at it later and you go, that was so helpful. That did so much for me. It compresses a decade's worth of learning in a couple of years.
That's it. You're 22, 23 years old. You really have no idea, right? I mean, you don't have the wisdom or the maturity to go with, to understand that you're learning. But the situations that you're in those positions, the next time that comes around and the time after that. I still get that today when I'll make a decision on something within the office and somebody will say, well, why are you doing it that way? And I say, well, because that way works and I've tried the other ways. So let's not do those. You experience is a great teacher.
For sure. Well, it's always the best one, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that goes back to your point about failing. You know, you have to be okay with saying, I tried this and here's why it didn't work, and
Mm-hmm.
here's what you're going to do differently, and experimenting, and just trying to just make it a little bit better, and being okay with the fact that you fell on your face.
Yeah. And just
Yeah,
try not to fall on your face for the same reason every time.
that's right. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, same fall, same thing, tripping on the same
Mm-hmm.
route,
Exactly.
maybe something else. So you get to Florida, and what was the job situation for you like then? So how did you have one beforehand, or did you have to find one once you got here?
Gosh, no. I had no job. Showed up, it really came to a choice if we were going to move to Tampa, Orlando, or Miami, because I wanted warm. And I knew people in Tampa Bay, so we moved here. I went to a Public Relations Society of America lunch, and when they do all the new people stand up and introduce yourself, I stood up and said I'm looking for a job. Um, Fortunately, I've got this quirky accent, so I think I had 2 or 3 interviews before I even left that lunch, and within a week, I had a job as the one of the PR team for a big marketing communication, well, not big marketing communications firms, maybe, I don't know, 15, 16 employees. We had some really cool clients, and that would be 99. Then we had a couple of phenomenal years. We did a lot of B2B and B2C. So we represented things like airports and cargo companies, but at the same time, a lot of alcohol clients, a lot of wine and spirits. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, 9/11 happened and business went through the roof because everybody was drinking. So alcohol became a much bigger part of our business model, the promoting of it, not the drinking of it. I think we all do enough of that anyway. So yeah, and then the guy who owned the company decided he wanted to retire. So I went from being the PR guy to one of the 3 partners. Myself and 2 other colleagues bought the firm in 01. Grew it and grew it and grew it. And then in 2008, we had that slight recession when
Yeah,
everything went
yep. A little bump.
horribly wrong. That's when we learned we were too heavily reliant on our wine client who was importing and suddenly had some cash flow issues because they didn't hedge their currencies and were buying in euros, and it was a nightmare. So we merged into another firm. So I went to work at a firm down in St. Petersburg here, Paradise Advertising. Went to work for them, and I was there for 8 years or so before now coming on to visit Tampa Bay.
So now Paradise, they're almost strictly
Tourism,
like a
hospitality. Yeah,
tourism.
not I would, I obviously I haven't worked there for 9 years, so I don't know all the clients they have now, but they are seen as being a hospitality and tourism agency. Yeah.
And was that your first foray into that life, or?
No, I think because the agency that I worked at and then part owned, if you're in Florida and you're in marketing, you're in tourism one way or another. When you're picking up, we've got airport clients or museums, or then you start doing pieces for different destinations. So I'd done some, but not really from a DMO point of view. It would be more from hotels and museums rather than the actual CVB DMO. Paradise, that was a first real time working on those DMO clients, and that was just interesting to see the differences, even in a state like Florida, which is obviously very heavily led by the hospitality industry, just the difference in size and scope and budgets and capabilities and mindset. And the different strategies that come in. It was hugely diverse, and again, a great learning opportunity to deal with both private entities, government entities, places that had a lot of political upheaval. It's again Florida. It's if the election was a choice between a pat in the back or a kick in the face, it would still be 50-50, just because that's the way we have to do things down here. So yeah, it was really enlightening and really quite educational. So great again learning time, and of learning things that I thought I could do better, or learning some good ideas that could share.
Yeah, is DMO, is that Destination Management Organization?
Marketing. So it's interesting. So it used to be CVB or tourism, then it became Destination Marketing Organization. Now Destinations International, who's one of the big umbrella companies, wants to change it to just Destination Organization. Others want to call it Destination Marketing and Management Organization. And I gave a presentation last summer. I don't know how well received it was. We would like it to be a destination leadership organization. Idea being that we are the umbrella that helps work for everybody within our community, whether it's the our own stakeholders or in effect the general public, because tourism is, while we're selling joy and enjoyment, the end goal is betterment of the community, better museums, better restaurants, better roads, better attractions. So really it's more of that. So
Yeah, it's like the more you can help them to help
right,
themselves, the better everybody's going to
exactly.
be. Yeah.
Well, and that's why we focus very heavily on the culinary scene. That's why we spent 9 years working on that, and have now, this will be our third year in the Michelin Guide. It's why we've worked with a lot of our different attractions to sell combined attraction passes, so that some of the smaller ones can get some more business through the door. It's why we, surprisingly for a destination, we actually are quite happy with the fact that we help to work on the anti-human trafficking campaigns for the city and the county, because human trafficking is a terrible scourge on the hospitality industry. So you can either put your head in the sand, or you can stand up and try and do something about it.
That's a human issue.
Right, but that comes into leadership. I think especially some of the government-based or county-based organizations don't have the same opportunities we do. They've got much stricter guidelines on what they're allowed to do. They're not allowed to lobby. They have to maintain that their focus is tourism is job one, and that's the only job. Whereas to us, it's like we want to be involved in how the city and the county are going to develop over time, help choose, if we're going to build another youth sports facility, where should it be? What should it be? Do we need to expand on our professional sports? Do we need a new performing arts center? It's really not just a case of heads in beds, which traditionally is what DMOs were, or tourism boards, to go back to their very old days. It's what they were really focused on. Of course, I wouldn't say that to our hotel owners, because they still want us to fill the hotels first.
Yeah, of
So
course.
if there's
Yeah,
any hotel owners listening to this,
it's heads in beds still. Heads in beds.
mm-hmm.
Now, your experience it's pretty, I mean, it goes back a long ways, right? It's not started yesterday type of a thing.
You
Do you
calling me
find
old?
No, I just said you have a lot of experience.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. That wasn't to say you failed a lot. It's just to say you've got experience.
Yeah, there we go.
To that point though, where do you find yourself in the ecosystem of people that are in your industry? Do you find that that somewhere in that neighborhood of 20 years experience is in the middle? Is that on the high end?
There are a lot of people in this business that stay in this business for their entire career. There are some I run into at certain conferences every year who I thought had retired a decade ago. So there's a lot of folks who stick around for a long time. I am probably, I'm getting to the stage now where this is probably going to be my last job, if not last but one. Definitely more at the higher end level of the experience chain. But, you can look at that two ways. Again, going back to the natural curiosity, I think I'm still looking for the next opportunity to promote, not the next opportunity for a job. I mean, the next opportunity to make a difference, to do something new. Plus, I get the chance now to be the take the role that some of my earlier mentors did and teach others and explain to them, not how to do the job, but how to see opportunities, how to deal with people, how not to deal with certain situations. You know, just learning the ABCs and helping them grow and empower them. So, which is kind of cool. It's kind of come full circle now. So I guess I should start stamping my foot.
Yeah, what you're trying to say is if someone writes a story about me, I should not take a machete to their place of business and threaten them.
Maybe that will be my autobiography. I'll call it "In Fear of a Machete."
You've got
It'll
to
be
you've
one
got to write
chapter
more than
long.
one chapter. Yeah.
No, I'd get bored after one chapter. So it's funny, right? Because it was when I was doing the PR jobs, that was great because I would write the feature pieces. Or even in the advertising agencies, write ad copy, write press releases, write brochures, edit destination guides, whatever it may be. That's easy, but to sit down and write a few pages is great. But then to make yourself go back and add to it, I don't know. That turned into a challenge. Maybe I'll try again.
I don't know. It sounds like work.
It's a fun part. I like work. I love work. Work's great. Well, hey, let's face it. If you're in tourism marketing, you better like weird hours because most things tend to happen at nights and weekends.
Yeah, no, it is. It very much it's the same kind of thing as like a event, in the event economy
Right.
kind of a thing. You're working all hours and on the weekends for sure. And it's like living the life of a professional golfer, right? You travel on Monday and Tuesday.
So if you don't love it, you got to get out. It's one of those you got to love this job to do it. Because you got to, no matter how you feel or how tired you feel, you have to remember the person on the other end. This is, if it's a visitor, this is could be a dream vacation. If it's a media person, you got to portray what it is you're trying to see. If it's a photo shoot, you got to get the right things done. It's I'll give you a story that I love. I think we won a few awards for this one. We were at an event a few years ago for a tourism event in Orlando at the Universal Studios. And it's a great event because what they do is it's just tourism executives. They shut down the park and they let us have the run of the entire theme park. So there's a couple of thousand people. So there's no lines for anything. And every time you walk out of one of the rides, there's somebody handing you a drink. So it's perfect. So we're on. I think it was one of the Harry Potter rides at Universal in Orlando, and one of my team who was with me typed into his phone. He wanted to know how long it was going to take him to drive home with traffic the way it was. So he typed in, you want to go to Tampa, and whatever app he was on for the maps asked him if he wanted to go to Tampa, Florida, or Tampa, Kansas. So we'd all had a couple of beers, and we looked at each other and went, Tampa, Kansas? There's a Tampa, Kansas? What the hell? We did some research, called our airport, called up a couple of airlines, and so on. And about 2 months later, we flew the entire town of Tampa, Kansas, to Tampa, Florida for a vacation. There were 104 people in the town. We flew 102 people. Two of them had to stay and make sure that nothing burned down. But brought the entire town, and sometimes you get not cynical, but you can get jaded. And when those folks landed at Tampa Airport and you've got kids who thought the airport was downtown or a shopping mall because they'd never seen anything that big in their life, and they're standing next to a 50-foot tall, 60-foot tall sculpture of a flamingo, and then to see the parents who, it's just to get there. It was a 2-hour bus ride to Wichita just to get on the plane to come in. So it's, for a lot of these folks, it may be the dream of a lifetime. So we get to give people that joy, and we got to love doing that and be there at 10 o'clock at night with the mayor of a town and all the rest of it. You gotta want to put in the hours. You gotta want to put in the work. You got to come up with this stupid idea to fly a whole town here, and then manage to get Southwest Airlines to comp half the tickets. So it's
That's
that's
amazing.
that's what makes the job worthwhile, right?
I mean, that's pretty cool. So how long? I gotta. I mean, tell me more about the trip. What did they? How long were they there? What they do?
They were, and this again shows the power of partnership. And one of the things that I think we've been very lucky with here in Tampa that I didn't see so much in some of the other destinations I worked with is that everybody really does pull together. Everybody wants to be under the same umbrella. Everybody leans on each other. So 102 tickets. Southwest covered half of them. Tampa International Airport covered another 25%. So we picked up the 25 tickets. One of our hotels here gave us now the average hotel rate right now here is about $150 midweek, January. They gave us the rooms at $18 per night per room. We took everybody to Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, the theme park. Busch Gardens gave them all free tickets and passes to get on all the rides. We had restaurants that provided, 40, 50% off on all of the stuff. We had restaurants providing free food. We had our bus companies supplying transportation at, pennies on the dollar. Everybody wanted to come together to make sure that they helped make this trip for these folks the best it could possibly be. So yeah, it actually, all joking aside, the most expensive part was the bus from Tampa, Kansas to Wichita Airport, which was amazing. But yeah, they were here for about 4 days. They went to the zoo, the aquarium, Busch Gardens, went on a river walk, tried out a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I had a great time. It became the first part of a friendship between the two towns now. I don't know how much you know about us, but we are one of the things we're famous for, and it actually happens this weekend, is we have a Gasparilla Pirate Festival, and the invasion is this Saturday. Which, for anybody who's listening doesn't know about it, look it up. It's the third largest festival or parade in the U.S. There'll be about 350,000 people dressed up like pirates and drinking heavily this Saturday. We have a real pirate ship. We do. The Mystic crew of Gasparilla pilot this ship. Anyway, so the following year for their big Santa Fe Trails event, we flew pirates to Tampa, Kansas, and had them riding horses in their parade. So, it's just because, of course, you do. If you've got a pirate, you stick him on a plane and send him to Kansas.
That's right. Exactly where a pirate belongs.
Exactly. 1,000
Holy
miles
cow.
inland, nowhere near even a body of water. Of course you do. So,
Yeah.
and you know what? The pirates flew on their dime and gave up their time because these are all professional folks who just do this, this fundraising and charity events. Again, it goes through they wanted all in. They saw how it had gone. They wanted to be involved, and that's kind of the nature of people in the business.
That is an awesome story.
Yeah.
It for so many reasons that is a really cool story and certainly deserving of the recognition and
Mm-hmm.
the buzz that it made. That's how long ago was this? What year was this?
This was December of 22, so like 13 months ago.
That wasn't long at all. Okay.
No,
Wow, that's
no.
amazing.
So yeah, we came up with the idea quickly and launched it and went with it. So it's again, we've been very lucky in that we are a very nimble private organization. We're not part of government. So when we come up with ideas like let's promote our restaurants by developing our own cookbook, and then that became then we did a cocktail book, and then we did a photography book, and yesterday we launched a new well, I say cookbook, we call it Tampa's Table. It's a culinary evolution. It's more of a journey into the history of food in the area and some of the newer restaurants and so on. We just launched that with an event last night with all of the chefs who were involved. We had writers from the Washington Post and Food and Wine and so on writing pieces for it. all for like pennies. We're talking about paying them a couple of $100 honorarium to put this together, just to raise awareness. I mean, the ability to make those ideas happen, and in every case, it's all done internally. It's invigorating.
These are the kind of stories, right, that you want to hear about, where you really are getting involved with the community and you're helping
Mm-hmm.
businesses to get more exposure and to bring people in and understand why it's special to, what's awesome about Tampa and the surrounding areas and all I mean, and Tampa's got a rich history, and there's a lot of cool things about the area to learn. So what's the total population of the area there?
The whole area all in, the whole DMA is probably about 1.5 million, maybe 2 million, just because it depends on how big a size you want to go on. Tampa itself is around 350,000, but of course we do the whole county and not just the city. You're right about the cultural heritage. I don't know if you listened to the Smartless podcast. I was just listening to it this morning, but they hate the word storytelling. I love the word storytelling because that's what I get to do with my life. In Tampa, we have a park that is Cuban soil. It is still owned by the government of Cuba.
Oh,
The
really?
statue in the middle of it is Jose Marti Park. Yeah, when we had the Super Bowl here a couple of years ago, we had one of the guys from one of the morning TV shows going, "I'm in Tampa. No, I'm in Cuba. I'm in Tampa," just by stepping backwards and forth across the park. But Tampa was founded by Cubans. It was founded by the cigar industry. We had Cubans, Spanish, Italians, and Germans all come over at the same time, but specifically Cuban. So a lot of heritage around that. The cigar industry. Every Cuban revolution has been launched in Tampa. Even Castro was here raising funds back in the 50s. This is where Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders sailed from when they were going down to the Spanish-American War for the independence of Cuba. So there's a great long history of that, and a lot of that then comes into some of the food history too. Cuban sandwiches and deviled crab and all these other things, or even just the development of a multicultural society. Back in when the cigar business was big, Tampa was the cigar capital of the world. Back when everybody smoked, it's obviously not the same case now. But that was the only place back. Remember, this is back when everything was still segregated in the U.S. It was the only place where you would have a Cuban guy, a white guy, an African American guy, all sat together next to each other, rolling cigars, all earning the same amount of money. Now, notice I said guys. There were no women because they were still sexist and misogynistic. But that was then. But that really was a difference. There aren't that many places where you would have this melting pot, and I love telling that story and then bringing in the cigar history and so on. It's as you can tell, I like to stand up and talk.
Well, but this is sort of a marketing professional's dream, right?
Right.
It's not this one vertical, narrative, and that's it. You have this, like you said, this melting pot of all these things
Mm-hmm.
that you get a chance to talk about. And plus, you demonstrated that the community really comes together to be a part of it. And it's not just like, well, we can't get that done because, nobody wants to be a
Mm-hmm.
part of it. It's everybody sort of gets that we're in this together, and we grow
Right.
together, and we help
Right.
together.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I joined here 9 years ago, because I'd lived here, but as I said, represented different destinations. But you could see, and Tampa 10, 15 years ago was nothing. I mean, if you haven't been to Tampa, anybody who hasn't been to Tampa in 10 years would have a very different opinion about how it looks now, or even 5 years ago. But I took this opportunity because of what was going on with our Riverwalk. We'd finally managed to turn that from an industrial area into a beautiful area with museums and restaurants and hotels. And then at the same time, we knew that we've got now this Water Street district where Bill Gates, Microsoft Bill Gates, and our hockey team owner, Jeff Vinnick, came together to put this like $2 billion redevelopment into downtown, where bringing in 4 and 5 star hotels that we hadn't had before, bringing in new. I mean, it really is actually a walkable city now. Everything has been designed to be green. all the HVAC systems for that entire area are in another building. So it's a pretty building, so you don't have all these roofs covered in junk, which looks terrible in photography. But it was that foresight and those folks who wanted to do that. And then that spun off another area, Midtown, that's now a big residential and business area with a huge shopping community, a couple more hotels there. And it's just everything keeps spurring on more and more innovation. And it's very exciting to be around, what's next? What are we going to do next? During the pandemic, the mayor here used to joke that our town bird was a crane because there were so many cranes still building, still going. So many buildings were still going up during that time. So it was a little nuts.
I bet he's real proud of himself for that joke, isn't he?
Yeah, and that brings us to, it's actually a woman, Jane Castor. She's the first, and now she's one of two, and they argue with each other on who's the first openly gay mayor of a major city in the U.S. But I think she just got reelected with like 90% of the vote. Former police chief, former police chief Democrat who's been elected in Florida for, it's a bizarre story, but it does show the inclusivity of our community. And I think that goes back to when all the Spanish and Cubans and Germans and Italians all showed up, 100 years ago.
Yeah. Well, then I have to say this. I'm sure she's real proud of that joke.
She is. She likes to tell that joke a lot. Yeah, but no, she's great. When we are on the road, we'll be in Germany trying to drum up business and working with groups. She will fly over and work alongside. When you have political figures who are also the same with our county commission, when people are prepared to put in the work for the community's sake as opposed to their own glory or their own egos, it also helps. And we're very lucky that very much for the most part, that's what we've had.
And you kind of brought this up a little bit, but I mean, what are some of the things that are next? What are some of the initiatives and ideas that you guys have that y'all are working on, or what's going on? What's the next big thing in Tampa?
We have a Pendry Hotel is just broke ground a couple of months ago. It's going to be a phenomenal 5-star. I think that's going to change the river walk right down at the front there. We've added a couple of boutique hotels. We're bringing on it looks like one of the river barges that you would see on the Seine in Paris. There's going to be like a 4 or 5-star dining cruise going down the river. That's going to be coming out in the next couple of months. Our Performing Arts Center, our Museum of Art are both undergoing massive expansion projects. Both of them have huge potential to go beyond what they are. And the Performing Arts Center, the Strauss, is where a lot of that's where the Broadway touring acts go. So it's really a case of, can we level up that? Can we bring in more concerts? We have some really big shows coming this year to Raymond James Stadium. So 75,000 crowds. We were the only Florida destination to have 3 nights of Taylor Swift last year, which was a great money earner.
Mm-hmm.
Add on to that Beyonce, and now we've got Sting and a bunch of others, Madonna. So a lot of big concerts coming up this year too. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, that's a lot going on. You've talked about some of the things that, like, you've got the cookbooks. I think you'd mentioned that you guys also do a podcast. Mm-hmm. What are some other marketing initiatives or anything that you're maybe thinking about trying out, moving forward, or something that you've been like, this has really been successful for us?
I'll tell you a couple of quirky ones. They're not mainstream ones. I mean, we've been involved in connected TV, OTT for years. We're doing stuff with Hulu and whatever. Now we're doing some stuff with Peacock and with Simplify that is actually something that people can be involved with. As it's not just a passive. It really tries to get people to become part of the program. We were the first destination to do wraps on like Uber and Lyft cars. There's a company called Carvertise who does the stuff. We were the first to do them. We actually have been with them a few years, and we get bunches of cars and create swarms around events and stuff around the country. What's really cool that's just about to launch now is the problem with cars is that you can only see them in the daytime, right? The wraps. So they've solved that. So look for something where you're going to be able to see the cars in the nighttime as well as the daytime coming to a lot of major markets, because our big out of state campaign just actually launched today in New York, Boston, Chicago, DC, Philly, Detroit, Charlotte, Atlanta, and Dallas. So all of those markets, a couple of them went live last week, but today is really the kickstart. So there's going to be, and it's really doing that whole takeover of everything from CTV to out of home to activations to digital to retargeting to every level of the funnel, to making sure we can drive people down to the conversion path. Because at the end of the day, doing something pretty is all well and good, but doing something that converts and makes a sell is the only reason you do it, right? So it's
Yeah. What's been maybe some of the things that are your you feel like are the most effective, or you see the ROI of getting people from one city to Tampa?
Gosh, I think that's a really straightforward answer to that. I think one of the things we do a lot of that is we run a lot of conversion campaigns with the online booking engines, your Expedias and Booking.coms, a lot of outreach specifically to their users, but we do a lot of retargeting based on people's credit card usage or previous travel patterns. I think those have been specifically helpful. We have some interesting markets that are always moving and changing. Atlanta for us has always been an interesting market because we are drivable, yet it's also obviously the busiest, or if not the busiest, second busiest airport in the world. So it was really trying to get people that are both driving and flying, especially if they're driving, because there's a lot of very cool Florida destinations you can stop at on the way. So, it's really trying to get that extra mile. So really, it's been and a lot of PR. We do a lot of whether it's earned media or owned media or paid online search. We try and make sure it all complements each other in every step, so that the same message you'll hear on one platform is the same as the message you'll see somewhere else.
It's interesting.
If you're asking me what the magic bullet is, I don't know. I guess that's why we're still all looking for it.
Yeah, that's why we still have jobs. Somebody hasn't figured it out yet.
Right, exactly.
No, well, there's things that it's funny. What's great about what we do is that as soon as you think you have it figured out, then it either becomes, everyone else figures it out at the same time, or then it magically becomes less effective for whatever reason. It's a moving target.
Everybody copies. Imitation and flattery, as the old phrase goes. But I think that's one of the things that we make sure we do is look outside of our own industry. I try and avoid try and go to at least a couple of times a year conferences or presentations that are outside of tourism. Try and see what's going on in consumer goods. Try and look at whatever may be going on in some unrelated field. We're always looking for non-competitive partners that we can work with. There's a lot of the stuff that crosses over from one to the other. And if someone comes up with an idea, it's very quickly adopted by as many of the smart people as possible. And I mean, it even comes down to the reason our ads look like our ads. And I know probably a lot of people listening haven't looked at them. But to us, I'm not trying to sell necessarily a tourism image. I'm trying to sell in the same way you'd look at a perfume ad or a jewelry ad or a high-end luxury car ad. We're trying to sell an emotion right through that. It's really trying to connect on more of an emotional level than just here's the waterfront and people frolicking. And I think that so our stuff tends to try and look like that end. On the other hand, though, then you get our collateral pieces, our destination guides, tend to have art on the front, graffiti art or mural art, because if you put up a picture of a family, then you aren't getting the attraction of people that don't have kids. Or if you put a picture of people eating, then what about the people who just want to go to the attractions? So it's really, again, trying to use art and art, food, and everything else as a means to connect emotionally or viscerally with the audience.
Well, it's your blessing and your curse here is you have so much to work with, which
Mm-hmm.
essentially means it's hard to you can't please everybody type of a thing too.
We may be in one of the few industries where everybody thinks they know how to do it and everybody has an opinion, right? Every week, somebody will come in and goes, "Well, what you really should be doing is this," or "Well, have you ever thought of doing this?" I don't remember the last time I went to my auto mechanic and told him how to fix my car, or the last time I went to my doctor and told him how to, do his job. But in our business, everybody knows how to do it, right? So it's provides its own level of fun.
Yeah, one of
I,
my
I,
favorites is I was gonna say one of my favorites is people just like to jump onto it's like just go to Facebook and boost a post. It only costs like $20. It works every time.
right? Yeah, we get those. I get probably once a month. Someone sends me a song they've written to promote Tampa and how we should be using that in all the music. And I've heard all kinds of stuff. Things
Wow.
that would be perfect more for like a Key West audience, more of a Jimmy Buffett like palm trees vibe. But I'm looking at it going, well, that's not really us, or all kinds of stuff. And it's what they want to help. So you got to give them credit for wanting to help. And they care enough to send it in. So I suppose we should be grateful and stop laughing at them.
That's true. And it can still be funny and appreciated.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the book I should do. Is all the bad ads and bad songs I've been sent over my career and put them all in one book.
Oof. That's a lot of sourcing.
Yeah, I probably have most of it still somewhere. That's the kind of stuff you save.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, man, I love it. There's so much good stuff going on, and what I think is so nice is I can hear and you can see that you truly enjoy it, and it makes you happy, and it's that's what you want this to be. Like you said, like I enjoy the work. The work is
Right.
what feeds my soul, kind of a thing.
There's a scene in Ted Lasso where Brett Goldstein's character is in a kebab shop buying a kebab, and the guy who works there is explaining he was 1 week away from taking his finals and becoming a doctor, but that wasn't him. Running a kebab shop was him. I think you've got to find what's you, right? What makes you want to do what you want to do, because you got to do this for your life. You got to do something for your life, and although we shouldn't measure people by what they do for a living, it is at least a third of your or half of your waking hours. So you may as well enjoy doing it.
And that is 100% true. No truer words have been spoken, my friend.
What, the kebab bit? Yes, let's all go for a kebab.
There you go. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. This has been really enlightening, a lot of fun. I love bringing Tampa to Tampa. That's such a cool story.
Oh, thank you.
And it's awesome that y'all put all that together. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, or anybody wants to learn more about Tampa, where do you tell them to go? What do you want them to do?
If they want to know more about Tampa, check out our website, visit tampabay.com. If they want to find me, you can find me on all the social media platforms. And if you want to send something personal, I'm happy to take emails. It's you tell them it's pharrison@visittampabay.com.
There you go. All you songwriters.
Yeah, so long as they don't send me any songs. Anybody who sends me a song, I'll come after you with a machete.